Well, let me just tell you, this has been a long journey for this team and everybody that has been involved in putting together this amazing week for you and only you. This is made for our entrepreneurs in our community, for our small businesses in our community, for our innovators, for our creators, anything in between. This is for you. The reason that we do this is because our region is changing. It's because now we are living in times in the Rio Grande Valley that we have to do this kind of event for you to get support, for you to know that you're not alone and that there are resources out there that can support you, help you, motivate you, inspire you, and everything else. And we do this because it's time, because the Rio Grande Valley is waking up to a new world of innovation and entrepreneurship. With everything that is going on in our community, from the arrival of SpaceX to all these big companies that are coming down, to a change in the environment, to a change in our ecosystem, we need to make sure that you know that there are not just resources, but there's a support system behind it, and that we're here to create that for you. So RGV Startup Week is not just a festival or an event, it's a movement. It's a movement for us to feel that we're changing and that we are now in a national competitive landscape, that you don't have to go, and I'm sorry if there's anybody here from out of this, within the state, you don't have to go to Dallas, you don't have to go to San Antonio, you don't have to go to Houston, you don't have to go to Austin. You can do it right here in the Rio Grande Valley. You can make things happen and dreams come true here in the Rio Grande Valley. Why not, guys? Why not? That is our mission. Thank you. That is our mission here at eBridge. Our mission is really to support that, to make sure that you know that that's what we're working for. So once again, it's a whole week. So we're gonna start with today being our, inspirational panel that we're gonna introduce in a little bit. But we're also gonna have a full day of sessions before we kick it off officially with our kickoff event. Which starts at 3:30 today at the, and I can't say the name, Livery venue, which is a beautiful venue that we have set up for all of you to go and see Farmacias Similares, which is Dr. Simi. If you want a little monito, go get it there. It is a great way to hear a story that's a binational story, because we are in a binational region. We cannot really do a lot of the things that we do without our neighbors to the south. And we need to bring that culture. I could have brought you guys a keynote speaker that was the best of the best in startup community in the United States, but that doesn't connect with us. We needed to bring somebody that connect with our culture, with the way that we think, with our traditions, and we always think about that and are very intentional when we create the keynote series for you. So that's why Farmacias Similares is here. That's why they're coming in and telling their story. It's a beautiful story. You will relate to it, whichever side of the border you're in, and that's what we wanted to show you and give back to you. After that, get ready for a full week of craziness, from pitch competitions to other panels, to sessions, to parties, everything that you can think, but related to entrepreneurship. And we're gonna say this again, so everybody that's coming in, that's not listening, will see it again. But the idea really is for you to feel inspired and to take advantage of this. We have free coffee, we have free lunches, everything is at no cost to you, because we wanted to make sure that you were here and that you're present here and that you take advantage of it, okay? I'm going to say a little bit thing in Spanish, porque también tenemos una comunidad súper importante que es nuestra comunidad hispana, y queremos que ustedes se sientan incluidos en todo esto y que sean parte de esta aventura que estamos creando en el Valle del Río Grande. Sí, hablo español. Y sí, soy mexicana. Pero más que nada, la idea es de crear un ecosistema hacia ustedes de recursos, de apoyo, de herramientas, de inspiración, de todo, para que se sientan incluidos, se sientan parte de algo que estamos creando y desarrollando aquí en el Valle del Río Grande, específicamente aquí en eBridge. I do want to thank, the organizing teams, which is, and you'll hear it again, UTRGV and BCIC. I mean, we did this with a lot of love. So if you see us, we're wearing these shirts, say thank you to them, because they worked crazy hours to get this done for the past couple of months. So without further ado, I'm going to make sure that production team is ready. You want to ask them if they're ready to go? So we can start our first panel because we wanted to start today different. We wanted to start today with a group of great leaders in our community that have a story that can inspire you to be what you want to be, to do what you want to do, and that it is possible against all odds to make sure that happens. We handpicked this selected 4 individuals that are going to be coming up here on stage because their stories are inspirational to us, and we wanted to share them with you as well. You know, they are, past partners or current partners. They're members of our community. They have been through a lot of the programming that you see here at eBridge, and across the valley. So we wanted to make sure that you had an opportunity to hear their stories and for them to be able to tell them in their own words, because there's no better way to hear the stories than from the person that has lived it. And that's why we wanted to invite them. So without further ado, I'm going to bring to the stage each one of them. They're going to have a seat, and then we're going to explain how this is going to flow, and then we'll let them, talk to you, and I'll stop talking. Okay? So once again, welcome to RGV Startup Week. Welcome to eBridge. Enjoy the week. On Thursday, we do have programming here, but we are out in the rest of the valley because we need to share, with everybody else. And, we want to make sure our region knows that we're going to be out in Harlingen, we're going to be in Edinburgh, and we're going to be in FAR. So join that schedule. If you, make sure you have your app in your phones, the Huba app. I always say it wrong, and first time I say it right. Huba app, so make sure that you have that with you and that you check everything that's been going on all week, and that way you can take advantage as much as you can. We did ask a lot of people to take the week off. I don't know if they did. Parking, I know, guys, but we're doing the best I can. We get the parking situation, but, there's a lot of parking. You just have to walk a little bit, but it's cool. Anyway, so we're going to start, and we're going to bring our panelists up. I'm going to start with the ladies. So I'm going to bring up Victoria Valenzuela. Welcome, Victoria. Have a seat. Daniel Pizana. Eric Arriaga. And Gilberto Hernandez. Careful. Hi. So, I'm going to let them introduce themselves. Each one of them will have about 10 minutes to kind of talk about their story, their inspiration, what has led them to do what they do, why do they do what they do, and basically is to provide you with a little bit of that, that feeling, that passion that they have in what they're creating and developing here in their city, in their community, in the Rio Grande Valley. After that, after each one of them goes through that, that journey with you, then we'll open it up for any Q&A that you may have. So this is not a panel where I'm going to be asking questions. This is more, we want to hear from you. We want to make sure that you share your story. So it's about you telling what you love most, okay? So we're going to start with Victoria and sharing that, and we'll go down the line that way. And take it away, Guy. Inspire us.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Victoria Valenzuela. I am the owner of Girl Gang Market, shop and venue here in Brownsville, Texas. So my entrepreneurship journey started when I was 19 years old. I'm 25 right now. So it started fresh out of high school. I was kind of like in between a lot of things because when I graduated high school, the year after that was COVID. So as we do know that COVID was something very depressing, especially in our community and especially just in the whole world in general. I wanted to find something that inspired me. And I started, experimenting and doing a lot of research on cruelty-free and vegan cosmetics. I do have a beauty brand here in Brownsville, Texas, that's called Glam Flutter Lashes. And that's where it all started. So little by little, I started growing my beauty brand, and from there, I started hosting pop-ups. So my very first pop-up was at my mom's raspa stand. She has a raspa stand in front of Perkins Middle School, and it was just something super, I guess you can say, spontaneous, because I didn't know, like, the vendors that I got there were my friends, but just from the internet. Like, they weren't, like, people that I actually connected with, face-to-face. And it was just kind of like, hey, you know what? Like, I'm going to have a pop-up. Like, do you want to come? Do you want to be a part of it? And, they were all girls, like they were all women, and they were like, no, yeah, for sure. So that's how we started it. It got so popular that day. I remember even the city of Bronzeville came and kind of tried to be like shut us down, because they were like, you don't have, you don't have the number of capacity, you don't know the capacity for the space here, and parking was crazy and stuff like that. So I'm always gonna remember that, because honestly, when I first started, I didn't think that it was gonna grow to what it is right now. So little by little with my entrepreneurship journey and vending at markets, becoming a vendor at markets, like at First Friday, at Lunada, and different events here in Bronzeville and also outside of Bronzeville, I took it upon myself in 2022 to be like, you know what, I want to host a pop-up, but I want to do it indoors. I want to have vendors. And mostly because when the very first time that I hosted it, I did a toy drive to give back for Toys for Tots, because it was during the November time. So again, we were in the same predicament a couple years later, and I was like, you know what, I want to do it bigger this time. I want to get some more toys, and this time we're going to donate it to our migrant community. So that's what we did, and honestly, when the very first time while doing it, I didn't think that it was going to be such a hit, or not that I didn't think it was, but I guess when you're dealing with something or doing something new for the first time, you're always, at least for me, I'm always taught to downplay it, because you're kind of scared as to what's gonna happen. And I remember that day as well being super awesome, having a really good turnout, and going home and getting a lot of messages from the vendors being like, Victoria, when's the next one? And I was like, next one? What do you mean? I was just gonna do this. And they're like, no, you have to do one. And then I had one of my friends being like, you have to do one at least for February, please, because it's Valentine's Day. And then, we have vendors that do the little cookies, and we have vendors that do little baskets. Please, you have to do one. And I was like, okay, you know what, I'll do it. So mind you, when I first started, I was only renting 1/3 of the event center. Right now, Girl Gang Market, if you go, it's the entire ballroom because of how much it's grown. But yeah, so when I first started, it was just 1/3, and I was like, you know what, okay, fine. I went back with the lady from the event center. I was like, you know what, I'm gonna rent it again. Okay, yeah, sure. And as time was going, I had to expand to 2/3 because of how many vendors found out about the market. And I kept it at 2/3 for about a year and a half, just because, again, I was a little skeptical as to what would happen if I expanded it too fast, right? I can say that's also really important in my entrepreneurship journey, because I gave myself time. I gave myself time for everything to kind of sink in and for me to realize a lot of things. Fast forward, another year later, we did a 1-year celebration, and I opened up the entire event center. And since then, we've been able to house 115 vendors per event. So it is amazing. There is a lot. I feel like there is a lot of talent, especially here in the RGV. So I'm super just blessed that everything kind of just started, and I was able to believe in myself from the beginning. But of course, I couldn't have done it without my family. Without my fiance, without my best friends. It was definitely it was hard, because growing up, especially being a girl in the business community and being a young girl too, it was kind of hard trying to navigate all those things, because, well, you're faced with so many things, you're so determined, but you're faced with so many obstacles. From dealing with vendors, from, commentaries and stuff like that. But I feel like right now I'm 25 years old, and I definitely have gotten a real good grip or real good grasp on, my ideas and on my things, But yeah, that's a little bit about me. I'll hand it over to the other panelists, because if not, I can be here rambling all day.
Hello. My name is Daniel Pizana, and my entrepreneurial journey started when I was about 4 years old. And it started out of necessity, out of need. So I grew up in a household where single mom, and she would have to go to work, and she sold ropa usada in the Pulga in Matamoros. She would come to the U.S., she would try to pick the best clothing she could, and she would sell it in Matamoros for a profit, right? So she would have to leave the whole day, and my sisters and I would just, sometimes we needed money to eat. And one of my sisters, I remember, she would cut tortillas in triangles and make them tostadas, and then we would go door to door selling tostadas. And then at 5, it started with oranges. My mom bought me a sack of oranges and cut them in 4, put some tajin, and I would sell them door to door. And it was out of need because, I felt the necessity to bring back to the home, even though I was 5, 6, I think to me, I was just so proud, to be able to tell my mom, like, hey, I made some money, And, but my mom taught me the most valuable lessons in business that I can, even to this day, tell you about. I mean, one of the things she taught me was to be fair to your suppliers. Sé justo, mijo, con los que te venden. O sea, todos tenemos que ganar en esto. No le regatees al señor que viene a vender eso de su pueblo y, don't haggle the guy that worked very hard to sell you this, whatever he's selling. She taught me to be fair. And she also taught me the value of collaboration. So, there's a saying that she would sell Mexican curiosities at the Mercado Juárez in Matamoros. I don't know if anyone's familiar with that kind of world, but it's just, everyone sells the same thing. If you go to Progreso, everyone sells the same blankets, the same sarapes, the same hats, right? But my mom taught me, like, look, siempre hay para todos. Like, the sun shines for everyone. We need to collaborate. So when she would get a customer that needed a jacket, size medium, and she didn't have it, but she knew her neighbor had it. So what she would do was just go to her neighbor, like, hey, I have a client. How much, for me? Well, give me X amount. And she would go and flip it and sell it for a profit. And that was how everyone made money, how everyone fed their family. Collaboration will always be the right answer. And so, my life was lived in flea markets. And I remember when it came the time to go to school, to go to college, everyone thought I was going to go to business school, right? Because I've been hustling since I was 5 years old, man. Like, I've sold at every single market you can think of. And I love selling things. That's really what I wish I would do if I were not a lawyer, because I'm a lawyer. I picked law school. But see, business to me was natural. I was like, I learned business. Like, what is there more to learn? I mean, you have something, you need to sell it for a profit, and it was so simple to me because I grew up seeing it in practice. I saw my mom, I mean, she would get arrested by CPS this day, but we would go pick the trash cans for curtains and stuff, and it was trash. And she would make money out of trash. Like, that was, oh my God, the best business ever, So, exactly. So, when I decided to be a lawyer, I had my own personal reasons, I saw how, I saw how a legal problem could affect someone so much, that they might consider doing things that, I'd rather not talk about, right? But I can see how legal problems can affect a whole family. They can destroy a whole family. And then especially if you don't have money, especially if you don't know English, especially if you don't know how the system works, and you're trying to, like, not take, just trying to navigate in the system. I saw the good heart of a lawyer, and I don't know if he knows this, but he inspired me because he took my sister's case for free. And that marked my life. I was like, I want to do what that guy does. I'm going to do it. And I was 17, and I remember went to Hannah High School, and bless her heart, my counselor was, told me that I was crazy, that it was never going to happen, that I should take the welding job that I was offered at Amphels. And I was a good welder too. I was in the machine shop, but no, I just went for it, And and in my legal journey, I figure out that, I really can't figure out how to make money with my law degree. I've served, poor people. And along the way, I found out that it was not going to be sustainable. I found out that I had to find some way to subsidize that work, that important work that sometimes nonprofits, it falls through the cracks, right? Their funding is limited. They can help the mom, but not the son. They can help the son, not the mom. Like, that's crazy. But in private practice, you can do whatever you want, as long as you can afford it, right? So that's when, I just started imagining something different, and I remember collaboration, and collaboration. From there, I built Pay My Lawyer. Pay My Lawyer is basically a payment system for law offices, for little guys like me. It's basically a way to keep their bookkeeping in order, because I know that it eats your lunch. When you're a lawyer, you want to do the right thing, you still have to deal with bookkeeping and payroll and all that stuff. So, I built that tool to help lawyers lawyer more, advocate more. And then the Legal 911 directory. So that's a directory where people can find a lawyer and they can figure out what kinds of lawyers there are. And, just trying to educate the community, at the same time connecting my people with the lawyers who are willing to go and fight for you. From that, I co-founded Noah's Ark. Once I got into the tech business, you start seeing opportunities, and Noah's Ark is an app for your phone where you can, it helps you reunite you with your lost pet. So basically, we give you a QR code that you put on your pet, scan, and I hope that these things subsidize the legal work. That's really the honest God truth. I wish I'll be able to profit with this, make money in an honest way, and keep lawyering for the underprivileged. That's what I wish.
Very powerful, very powerful. So good morning, folks. First and foremost, I'm so excited to be here. Startup Week, when opportunities arise, you take the opportunity to get there. A little journey about my background. So who here has ever suffered with ADHD, ADD, or some kind of ADHD, whatever it is, right? So a little background story, I was the problem child in my community, no joke. I was the youngest in my family. I got two older brothers, my middle brother. Great working family members. My parents worked their tail off to give us the life that we have now today. And I think they're looking up from heaven to watch our massive success. But at the end of the day, growing up with an advantage of other people that don't have the superpowers that I have, which is the ADHD. I went to all the elementary schools because I was super hyperactive. I'm from South Morningside area. I went to all the elementary schools because the other thing is they couldn't find the problem, what it was for me. So my older brother did martial arts and inspired me to become what I am today. And honestly, I think we all had the entrepreneurship at a young age. Like you said, you were hustling at a young age. I was hustling at a very young age too. I was cutting grass at 6 years old. My first business was 12 years old. We were renting tables and chairs. What I'm saying? At 12 years old, my brother and I, we got an investment. We got a loan from my father, $500. We went to Sam's, we bought all the great stuff, and honestly, that made a living for us for the weekend parties, right? But anyways, going back to the ADHD, so they always said, what's wrong with him? Why is he so hyper? Why can't he pay attention? Well, I just couldn't stand still. So I joined martial arts, and it changed my life. That was the temple, it was the therapy, it was the blessing that most kids don't have nowadays, Honestly, and I did martial arts for numerous of years. It took me places that I've never been before. I was in the U.S. national team, and honestly, it's called success and discipline. And we all have discipline as entrepreneurs, right? But honestly, you have to have the right coach on the right seat with you. And so I joined a journey. I opened up my first location. Actually, I didn't even graduate high school. I was the C.D. student, right? But I always thought C's get you degrees, right? And I'm the first in my family with a political science degree from the University of Texas at Brownsville. I'm the first millionaire of my family. And honestly, hard work and dedication, but you knew who lit the path? My brothers, my family lit the path for success. And martial arts has been a great blessing, especially for me and my family. And I took that martial arts skills and I 10x'd it. And what that means is I own a franchise called Premier Martial Arts. We cater to hundreds of students across the United States. And our niche is because kids like him right there, my son, I do it for him and my family. So kids that are not the rock star students, are not the athletes that they want to be. They always sit on the bench. So my itch is why cater to them and why can cater to those kids that can become total rock stars, especially in the community. And from there, we have gone from zero to hero, especially when it comes to how to help a child, a family member, how to scale themselves and also the success of a family. Without being, I've been to many trainings. I've been to a lot of sales. I've gone to the top of the top of the top of the chain. And yesterday, I was having a conversation with my brother, Ed, because, he was my coach, my guidance, and without his dedication, I wouldn't be where I'm at today, sitting on the panel. But when it comes to that, it's the support of your family. The person's going to be your ride and die when it comes to business. And I'll go into more detail when it comes to, operating at a high level. Because, all of us here started as a mom and pop shop. But how do you scale to the next step? How do you get the SOPs? How do you get a franchise? How do you become more licensed? How do you get more of the umbrella part, right? So everybody wants to scale, but don't know the right tools to get there. So if you read books, right, at the end of the day, I read at third grade level, no joke. I read at third grade level, but I audiobook. I make my staff do book reports, and I want them to teach me what they learn. Like Henry Ford always says, why learn how to read if I can pay somebody to read for me? Right? So that's the entrepreneurship that we all have. And honestly, Startup Week is a free event. It's for everybody. This room should be packed, right? And there's a saying, people that pay get to play, which means is what? All of us right here are going to be the one top percenters in the community, especially when it comes to relations in the business. Why? Because you guys are here. You guys are here. And what I learned is if you get something for free, guess what happens? You don't take advantage of it. When you pay for it, you become what you want to become. Wouldn't you agree? Now, going back to it, our business has done, in the last 8 years, a little under 10 million. This is just martial arts. I'm saying just martial arts. Everyone's like, martial arts, you do business? Yeah, I do business. But with that it's a roadmap to become successful. And I'm gonna end it in a note so that you guys have the mindset, okay? We call this the money pledge. Are you guys ready? Because at the end of the day, we're in business to what? Make cash flow, right? So what I want you to do real quick, put your 2 fingers like this, okay? And I want you to say it like you mean it, because at the end of the day, you are what you are, right? What you preach for your community and your business. So we call this the money pledge. So repeat after me. Say, I pledge allegiance. I pledge allegiance. No. That sounds like a Sunday. I want to sound like a Monday, right? It's Monday, fresh day. Come on, say it with confidence. Say, I pledge allegiance. I pledge allegiance to my thing. So a thing, and a thing is a totally different thing. A thing is just a chair. A thing is like your community, what you accomplish, what you get in life. Your thing. Be proud of what you get, right? So again, I pledge allegiance, to my thing. Okay, you got that, right? I will rise above, doing what I love. Okay, so you do what you love, exactly. And then from there, what you say, when you do what you love, guess what happens? Everything comes to play. So for those who laugh, say it, for those who laugh, can kiss my What is it? No, assets. Assets, okay? So listen what you guys accomplished today, because at the end of the day, you don't listen to the naysayers. Listen to the people that are gonna guide you, and honestly, you're gonna be total rock stars, and you're gonna scale your business and make money.
I'll have to write that down somewhere. Good morning, everyone. My name is Gilberto Hernandez, and I'm the founder of Buo, Brownsville's one and only independent bookstore. The story of Buo, from an outsider's perspective, can best be described as a long series of miracles. Coincidentally, it is something to write a book about. But honestly, Buo is the business that it is today because the people of Brownsville believed that we deserved an independent bookstore. This whole adventure started in 2021, late in the year, when I got COVID and I was stuck in my room and going crazy, being in quarantine. See, in the years before, I was heavily involved in all these community organizations like Leadership Brownsville, Rotary, Toastmasters, where all the members added value to Brownsville through their organizations, their nonprofits, their businesses, and I wanted to do something similar to what they were doing. I don't know what, but I wanted to do something along those lines. So there I was in my room, coughing with a fever, not tasting or smelling anything, thinking, tengo que hacer algo. So after I recovered, it came to me in the form of a question where all great ideas come from, in the shower. I thought to myself, hang on, in all these groups, the one complaint I kept hearing over and over, why doesn't Brownsville have a bookstore? We had one in the mall called the Walden Books, but it was a chain that closed after the Great Recession in 2009. And throughout all that time, big name bookstores would prefer to set up over in McAllen than in Brownsville, because there was a heavier population over there and for a number of reasons. So the question that came to me was, is Brownsville, Texas the largest city in America without a bookstore? I pulled an all-nighter to try to figure it out. Since I only have 10 minutes, the answer is basically yes, but no, but basically yes. So because we were essentially the largest city in America without one, I thought to myself, I need a career change. I have to do something about it. I go to the States, I file the paperwork, I go to the bank to set up a business account. The thing is, they could only give me a $5,000 credit card. You can't do much with $5,000 as a business. It's something, but I thought to myself, okay, if I'm going to begin, it has to be very small. I set up originally in vendors fairs, much like Victoria's. Victoria, by the way, you are an incubator of entrepreneurship, and you are a valuable member of this community. Yeah. I could not be where I am if it not been for similar vendors fairs like yours. But it was all with the idea that we are going to prove our notions wrong. Because for the longest time, an independent bookstore was thought to be a business impossible to set up in Brownsville. A lot of us may have heard things like, oh, Brownsville cannot appreciate literature, or blah, 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 blah. No, we gaslit ourselves into doing that, but I knew that the demand was there because it was the complaints I kept hearing over and over and over again. Well, in my first vendor's fair, even though it was just a table, 2 library carts, and 500 pounds of books that I would carry around in the back of my pickup truck, I was the only one there that consistently had a line because people wanted to have that experience of having a bookstore again in Brownsville. So there I was going from place to place. Small businesses would open their doors to have me sell books there for the weekend. All with the idea I wasn't going to be a pop-up forever. I don't know where I was going to go, but it had to find a home. I did notice that they were renovating the Calderoni building on Washington Street, which is where Buo is right now. I would poke my head in the window, my face against the glass, saw that they were renovating it, and I thought, this has to be the place. I don't know where to go, who to talk to. There isn't a name, there isn't a number, but this has to be it. Fast forward to the grand opening of the Morning Glory and the block over. And there I was, eating an avocado toast, drinking a coffee, reading the Count of Monte Cristo, when suddenly a mysterious older gentleman approaches, and he goes, "Disculpe, ¿es usted el búho?" I go, "Yes, I am búho." He goes, "Oh, I've been looking all over for you. My name's Enrique. I'm the guy who's renovating the Calderoni building." There's stars in my eyes, y'all. I go, no, you don't understand. I have been looking for you." He goes, "Oh, that's great. Listen, everyone who's everyone wants to be in my building, but they're either a bar, they're a restaurant, or they're a club. There's people living upstairs," he says. "I don't want loud music, I don't want another downtown bar, and I don't want the stench of food stinking up their homes. You are a bookstore, you are different, you are the ideal tenant, you're coming to my building." Sir, yes, sir. So at the end of the year, I thankfully had sold enough books as a pop-up to pay 2 months of rent as was required by the lease. So I began there in 2023 with the most basic, bare bones operation. At the time, most of the books were still secondhand. The only tables I got were from The Gap that closed, and I got them for $100 each. And we didn't have bookshelves. We had these ugly garage storage racks from the Home Depot. And in addition, the rest of the books were in stacks around the perimeter of the store. It was it looks so ugly compared to what it is right now, but we had to start somewhere. Still, people in the first weeks would show up in droves because, again, they wanted the experience of having a bookshop again in Brownsville. So slowly but surely, we started reinvesting all of our profits. Just for transparency, to this day, I only pay myself anywhere between $500 to $1,000 a month because this has to snowball into something great. So all the furniture, Facebook Marketplace, all the decorations, estate sales, wherever I could find them at a good price to not waste so much, to give it the respect and beauty that it deserves. So imagine my surprise when later that year, I got word that a bookseller in Lawrence, Kansas was retiring and selling all his bookshelves, quality bookstore bookshelves, for a ridiculously low price. I called dibs on 18. I hired a mover to go over to Kansas. In the middle of a tornado warning, by the way. This is Tornado Alley. But thankfully, the tornado missed that particular area of the town. The bookshelves got loaded, and they came in here to downtown Brownsville. But here's the interesting thing. Buo eventually took on a whole life of its own because all these wonderful community organizations wanted to do events there. Things like community outreach, activism, art, poetry, anything at all. Buo was the space for everyone. It truly took a life of its own. So eventually it actually became and looked like an independent bookstore, but I knew from the very beginning that it needed an additional stream of income. In fact, if you look at the Buo logo, it is an owl with a book for its horns and 2 coffee cups for its eyes. From the very beginning, I knew that Buo could only survive and thrive if it had a coffee program. And anyone who deals with food and drink in Brownsville will tell you horror stories. But it is not impossible if you, as we say here, si le terqueas, if you're persistent enough, you'll get there. Fast forward to February of last year, where I just got a bombshell announcement via the form of chisme while getting my haircut. The hairdresser was cutting my hair and saying, "Hey, so there's a big bookstore coming, the one from New York City here at the mall." I go, "Wait, what?" Yeah, it's gonna be between the entrance and the main event. Y'all, 2 whole months before the city of Brownsville and Mayor Cowan announced that it was coming, I called the manager on site at the time, "Jackie, Barnes & Noble is coming." I had 2 whole months to prepare on how to adapt and pivot to the reality that we were not going to be the only bookstore anymore. And then after having several conversations with other booksellers, I came to the realization, you know what? I will be okay if Buo just focuses on what it does best. Barnes and Buo are 2 very different businesses. As you said, el sol sale para todos. They specialize in new books and thousands of books. We have new books, we have secondhands, we have antiques, we have community events, we have board games, we have wine. Nada que ver. And what I tell people that are worried about Buo in regards to them, I tell them, there's 1,000 Barnes and Nobles, but there's only one Buo. At the same time, ever since they opened, sales have increased at Buo 27%. So honestly, I'm fine. But it did give me the urgency that I needed to kickstart the construction of a coffee bar. If you look at what it is right now, it is, I dare say, one of the most beautiful bars in the whole state of Texas. But throughout all this process, there have been 3 main takeaways. I'm of the belief that each and every one of us is blessed with a unique combination of traits, personalities, skills, talents. This specific combination that we all have has never before been seen and never after will be seen again. If you can figure out how to best combine those in a way that connects with the community and monetize that into a business, all the while injecting your own personality into it, you will be uncompetable. Secondly, I am a big believer that if you fuel your business with passion, the more people you interact, the more doors you create. And the more doors you create, the more luck, the more miracles it seems, statistically, for you to generate. And thirdly, if I were to distill all this into one single phrase, it would be the Latin phrase, in viam aut faciem. It comes from the time when the General Hannibal was trying to move all the elephants across the Alps. And they told him he couldn't do it. These are elephants climbing mountains in a continent that they are not used to. So he said that phrase, which translates to, I will find a way or I will make one. And that's basically what Buo has become, a business that has long thought impossible for Brownsville, and it all became just by listening to the community, seeing what they wanted to see in an independent bookstore. I found a way, I made one, and here we are a couple of blocks away in downtown Brownsville.
Was that cool or what? Did you guys get inspired? Yeah? Their stories are phenomenal. I personally know a couple of you. You know, I've worked with you in programs. You've been through, you know, some of those journeys with us. And I believe that we have laughed and we have cried a little, you know, through the journey. But that's the whole essence of their stories. They're so impactful. And yes, you can do it. Yes, there's a way. Yes, you can find a way to get everything done. Do not think that just because you don't have it right now doesn't mean that it cannot happen eventually. So keep fighting for those dreams. And if you need somebody to catch those dreams and help you, that's what we're here for. So without further, no, thank you. We're gonna open it for questions. Does anybody have a question for any of our panelists? Don't be shy, because then I'll start picking people. Just kidding. Yeah. Sorry, I forgot I was not in a program. Any questions?
Again, guys, this is all the golden nuggets that you guys need to become successful. Take advantage of it. Because if you don't know it, I should have asked.
Any questions? Over there. We're gonna get you a mic because we're streaming.
So just wanted to say super thank you for sharing and imparting that. I can now already tell that my life is transformed just because I was in the room. So thank you for that. I guess my question is, if you had to give the biggest pitfall, the thing that you learned the biggest this far, what would it be? The biggest pitfall.
We'll start with, well, Eric, and go for it. Go for it. Mhm.
Can you elaborate?
Far, the hardest thing you've overcome so far as an entrepreneur.
Doubt.
Got
So
it.
sometimes you doubt yourself as an entrepreneur because you say, man, what's going on? Why are things not flowing the way it's supposed to be flowing, right? Why is my staff not being on the same page? Why are, members dropping? Why? They're always the why, the what if, correct? But honestly, it all comes down to leadership. It comes down to how do you plan and structure your culture, your community, and also how you establish your process. There's three things that I rely for: people, process, and products, right? When it comes to running a business. The team has to be in the same level. You have to educate them how you want them to do the job correctly. And it's going to be a roller coaster. It's not like, from day to day, you're already, climbing the mountain. No, it's more like all ships rise with rising waters because you all have to be aligned. And, it's all about education, training, and accountability. And when it comes to businesses, honestly, it's about, who knows you. You guys know it takes 7 seconds to make a first impression, correct? All right here made a big impression on me and myself. I'm sure you guys. But when it comes to the downfall is market. Do people know you? If people don't know you, they don't flow you, right? So the number one rule of marketing is what? Promote, promote, promote. Would you agree? But that's going to be the downfall too on that part.
I feel like the biggest lesson I learned, and thankfully I learned it at about the right time. I felt that Buo was in serious jeopardy in around the year 2024, halfway through it. By that point, I probably had less than $2,000 in the bank. And I thought to myself, okay, I'm in trouble. I have to find ways to make more money. And the biggest strategy to that was diversifying the inventory. Books are expensive. Paperbacks, new ones are 18 más o menos, new ones, or hardcovers are 30. And a lot of people want to enter Buo and want to support or buy something, but they may not resonate with anything there. So it was at that time where I started experimenting with posters, plushies, little knickknacks. I feel like that has become, I want to say 20% of all sales, even though it doesn't, they individually don't compare to a book. It adds up to the point where I can safely have my head above water.
Victoria?
So I guess something that's been challenge has been a challenge, and it continues to be a challenge because obviously this entrepreneurship journey is still going, is I guess listening to a different type of, I don't want to say audience, right? Because I try to listen to all kinds of audience, but I can say like a lot of negative comments, because I feel like when I'm a huge believer in listening, not what you want to hear necessarily, but something that's going to help fuel you. So I was in a panel last year here at RGV Startup Week with Her Texas, and they had asked something similar, right? And I remember, going home and thinking about this question, over and over again. And what I would like to say right now is I love to listen to all kinds of opinions and all kinds of, people and stuff like that, but I really do focus my attention on two things. Is it gonna dilute my plan, or is it going to pour back into my plan? Because I definitely feel like, being a girl and being, a part of a business community, sometimes it gets really hard. It gets really hard, and there's a lot of self-doubt as well. I'm still growing up. I'm 25 years old, right? So I always I feel like I'm a different version of myself every single season. But nonetheless, I would definitely say that is one of my biggest challenges right now, and it has been one of my biggest challenges, is definitely like seeing where to put, I guess, my intention, or where to get like my like commentary from. Especially when you're on social media a lot. Like I have multiple pages. Like I said, I have a market, a shop, and a venue, and I do cosmetics on the side. I feel like I'm a very visible person on social media. So obviously on social media, I'm not gonna go and put like, for example, I'm a full-time student. I'm not gonna go and put like, oh, like I failed a test today or stuff like that, because that's just not what my business like consists of and stuff like that. But I do feel like, that is one of like my biggest challenges up to date. But yeah.
And I just want to piggyback. I think the hardest thing in my journey so far is being to find the power within. So, like the who am I to think that? Who am I to think that big? Who am I to think that I can do that? Who am I to, I think to me that is the hardest thing, because it's like working out. You have to do it every day. You can skip a few days, right? But I mean, really just knowing that everything and everyone that you need is already here. They're already here. We've been doing this for centuries as a community. Look at where we are. This is a community that's growing. It's not shrinking, it's growing. People want what we have. What we have. It's ours. This is ours. And finding that power, it took some experiences. That's all.
Can I end it with that? Because honestly, when you said about the inspiration about doubt, so there's a story called The Ducks and the Eagles. Have you heard of that story before? So the ducks are pretty much the people that are always going to tell you that you're always wrong, you can't get done, you're dumb, right? Those are the losers in life, right? Ducks. They're always complaining, wallowing, talking about duck shit and stuff, right? Those are the losers. And that's not who you want to hang out with. Eagles are the ones that soar high and get shit done. Entrepreneurship is all about what? Getting shit done. Excuse my language. This is the business world, right? But at the end of the day, guess what? What are you? Are you an eagle or you're a duck? Right here, we're all eagles, because there's no ducks in this room today.
Except the little ducks that we made for RGV Startup Weeks.
Except that he's a mighty duck, though.
He's a mighty duck. Yeah.
Next question. I know you all have different views, different kind of businesses. How did you get funded for your dream?
We'll start with Victoria over here.
Well, I can definitely say that I got funded through the small business community. When I first started, right, like my first market, it was a free market, because obviously we were outside. It was a parking lot. It was outside my mom's parking lot, right? So obviously I wasn't going to charge there. But as Girl Gang kept growing, and as it still keeps growing, because I see growth at every single event, we started adding in fees, vendor fees and stuff like that. But it's like I tell all of my vendors, and I tell everybody, and it's on social media, if you don't invest in yourself, who's going to do it, right? Especially when it comes to your business. So these events, if you guys have ever seen them on social media, I go all out. I have a DJ, I have giveaways, I have costume contests, I bring in like different characters like per theme. This past one that I had was Super Mario themed, so I had like a big Bowser and had a big Mario, and those were super expensive costumes. But a lot of people have also told me, like, you don't have to do that much. Like, you can just put like a speaker, or you could just do this, you can just do that. But I feel that that's part of the experience, being a vendor at Girl Gang, and I look at it as a vendor perspective as well, because I'm a vendor. I feel like it is more than just a transaction, I'm not just renting you out like a table and some chairs, here, go set up, it's more of like a community, So I'm very thankful that I got to build my business while building a community.
you for reminding me of that question. And I think I got funded, I don't want it to sound cheesy, but by the grace of God. Because, you know, it was one of those where when I started the software company, Pay My Lawyer, I mean, I'm a lawyer. And I wanted to do a software. And I'm not gonna lie, but I probably read about 200 for Dummies books. And some of them I read more than once. So I had a system where if one book was good, I would read it 7 times. And I picked up coding for dummies, programming for dummies, Python for dummies, C++ for dummies. I just went on a obsession. And and I think that obsession started like first freaking out people around me, because it was like, man, like, are you okay? Like, you know? And then I think people started accepting that I was off the rocker, and then they started helping. So now, you know, I think people saw that I was just not stopping. So I had a friend, my co-founder, Juan. He's a computer scientist. He was like, bro, what are you trying to do, man? And I was like, this. It's like, I'll help you. And then he started doing it. The only thing that I can remember is when I was in high school and I was fixing up my old Mustang, and one of my friends was like, dude, I'll help you, I'll teach you, but you have to come on the weekends. And on the weekends, we would work on the car. Same thing. That's how we built the softwares. It was me and my friend at night, in the morning, weekends, vacations. It was just doing it ourselves. It was him and I. It was marathons. Like the whole weekend, we would stay up all night, coffee, Red Bull. And so, yeah, I mean, that's, thank you for the reminder.
So how did I fund my business? Well, it's called American Express, right? No, actually, when I opened up my first location, it was a mom and pop shop school. We moved to Harlingen because my brother had a karate school here in the Brownsville area. So we moved to test the different market area. And honestly, you know, I had very little cash flow. And I applied for a credit card, and I got it, and I maxed the crap out of it because that was my cash flow. And if it wasn't for those credit cards, honestly, I wouldn't be where I'm at today. But honestly, you know, I didn't know business. I graduated, you know, with a political science degree and no business experience. I knew some business, right, by watching my older brother run his operations. But honestly, you need to get out there, you know, get people that coach you. And I became a consultant in the space that, you know, needs coaching, how to go from 0 to hero. But honestly, it's more like how to know the process. What's the steps? How do you get your EIN number? Does my EIN number give me some cash flow? Absolutely. Once you open up your LLC, you take that to the bank, and that's going to be your line of credit. Never put anything on your name, because don't forget, you know that there's a lot of people that want to take advantage of you or take your hard earnings away. And we'll go to that to the different story, because there's a lot of route how I've scaled my businesses to how to make them more of the process. But, you know, being a lawyer, you know, there's always the sharks out there that want to take from the hustlers, right? But honestly, if you invest back in your business, you will get a 3x or 4x return. Like the Jim Rohn, you guys who know who Jim Rohn is, I'm a sucker for all books now. You know, at my I don't know what you guys are ages, but I'm 43 years old, right? I'm the old dog here. But honestly, Jim Rohn always says, if you work on your job, you can make a living. But if you work on yourself, you can make a fortune. So I'm in that path of, you know, what's next? What's the fortune for myself and my family and my company? But honestly, you know, get funded, get educated, get your cash flow so that you can take the little step further to become millionaires.
Buo began, like I said, with the $5,000 credit card, which I used a good chunk of to get secondhand books off of eBay. See, there's pros and cons with secondhand versus new books. With secondhands, you do get a larger profit margin potentially, but you don't exactly get a lot of control with what comes your way. Whereas with new books, you have full control, depending entirely on what the distributor may have, but it is a larger investment. But that is how Buo got started during its first year in 2022. And then, well, the challenge of becoming a storefront was, okay, well, now I have to do this, but on a larger scale. Thankfully, during my pop-up days, enough people wanted to see Buo survive and thrive to the point where they kept donating boxes and bags of books in order to make this possible. Well, it was that kind of subsidized the investment for its first batch of new books. And I will say a large chunk of Buo's credit card debt does come from new books, but it is what allows it to become the bookstore that it is today. And also, we cannot deny the assistance that BCIC has given us. For the first year of being on Washington Street, we did qualify for the rent subsidy program. So they did front a good chunk of the rent for the first 12 months. And then when it came to the coffee bar, thankfully by that point I had developed enough business history and a financial track record to prove to them, hey, I can apply for the eBridge fund for a loan to finance the construction of the coffee bar. So it was what, from an outsider's perspective, could be seen as a long series of miracles, but there is a method to the madness, and that's how we got to how we are today. But it's mainly fueled because of the people of Brownsville believing in Buo and wanting to see this happen.
How many of you guys are afraid of debt? Debt. Some of us are like, I don't want to be in debt. That's good debt. You should have debt.
I love debt.
Honestly, that's yeah. Debt is the way to become successful in your business. So don't be afraid of maxing your cards, because honestly, it's a write-off. Don't forget that when it comes to the tax bill. But that's a different chapter when we talked about that.
So funny, I just saw a truck, no credit needed. Pass by right here. Thank you so much, guys. Really, I just, a quick side note on Buo. I remember that one of his first pop-ups was at our first Startup Texas competition, remember? And that's how we met, because he was there with his books, and I'm like, oh my God. I knew that he was gonna become, something bigger than the pop-up world, but, I remember, and it was a startup competition that we will have here on Wednesday night. So, and that you have, been part of. So I wanna thank our panelists. Guys, it doesn't get any better than this, right? Look at these people and how inspiring they are, their stories, their willingness to share even some of their fears, with you makes it a lot more impactful for you guys to, in your own entrepreneurial journeys. So thank you so much for the inspiration, for the motivation, and for being you and for being part of it. I know there's some giveaways that we want to give out from some of our, panelists, so take advantage of that. We're going to take a quick picture of the four of you here in the stage. Thank you, everybody. I'm going to pass it on to Grace, that's going to announce our next set of sessions. Please give it up for our panelists. Great, inspiring. All right, go, Grace.
So now, hello, can you hear me? Yes? ¿Seguros? Sí, 100%. Okay, first of all, I have some announcements. First, tenemos estos patitos all over the building. If you find one, it's yours. Hay unos azules también. There are blue ones that says eBridge, and there's yellow ones that says RGV Startup Week. Look around, I see one over there. ¿Ya lo vieron? Ahí está. And also, we have a reset room. If you are stressed, si ocupan un break de algunos 5-10 minutitos, they are doing a 7-minute guided meditation. So you can walk in at any moment on the day, and you can just, they have these really cool headphones, so you put them on, and then it's a 7-minute guided meditation. So if at any moment of the day, you feel stressed out, you feel overwhelmed, you're more than welcome to join us on that. The room is called Starbase, so you can take a note on that. And we have 3 sessions going on right now at 10:15. How to sell your vision in Ruby Capital Room. All of the 3 sessions are gonna be in the back rooms. The AI co-founder mindset, building strategic partnerships between humans and AI. That one's gonna be on PNC Bank Room. And we'll now, oh, and also SBA resources for small businesses in the RGV. That one's gonna be at Coca-Cola Room. Okay, we'll be back.
Take advantage of the rooms, take advantage of the session. The wellness room is open. If you want to have a 7-minute meditation, great experience, guys. Take advantage of that. It is here all week. But let's go through the sessions. It's session time.
Remember that session starts in 5 minutes.